And you.
Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Holding Court with the Empress of West Hollywood. My name's Enoch Miller, your Empress of WeHo. Thank you so much for being here today! Yeah! We want to do a special thank you to GayLifeLA.com as well as Kingswood Apartment Homes for this lovely space you see here today. And also to our sponsor, Impulse Group Los Angeles, who is an amazing organization that's all about letting you live fun, healthy, and sexy lifestyles, but making sure that you know your motherfucking status. So go get tested. You can go to Impulse LA and find out more information. They are in 10 different countries, 22 chapters with another 2 more coming here on the way. Dallas is supposed to be opening up soon. So they are worldwide, helping everyone be safe, fun, and living a gay old time. So thank you, Impulse Los Angeles, for everything you do here for us in Los Angeles as well as all around the world. And I want to do a special thank you to my amazing guest, Mr. Bruce Vilanch! Yay! Hi. Coming to us all the way from Hollywood.
And there's a creature of impulse.
It's a creature. I see those sidewalks of West Hollywood have some stories to tell, don't they? Just a few. But Bruce, you're originally a New York boy,
Yes.
born in Manhattan.
True that.
Before you were snatched across the river all the way to Jersey.
Deposit. Christy made sure the bridge was open.
Oh, she did. She allowed you to pass.
Gee, that fat thing.
But for you, when you think back to New York, and obviously you travel there a lot too as well, what is your comparison to New York to Los Angeles? Like, what do you like more about one, and what do you like more about the other?
Yeah, I like them both. It always makes me laugh. I've been living out here for 50 years.
Just a few.
I keep amyl nitrate in my palm.
And she won't share.
Back. She's back. No, I'll share. Just take my hand like a Pomeranian. Go ahead.
Okay.
Pardon me, there's a basset hound in the room.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to offend.
A real massive hound, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly right. Who will begin baying at any moment. Whenever people would come out here and say, "Oh, you can't this," and I'd say, "Go back to New York. More parking for Bruce." But they're two totally different animals.
True.
New York, no place is like New York. It's intense, and LA is LA. And I mean, they're two different energies. LA is a place that was mostly built after the Second World War, so it was built for cars, and it's low until recently. It was low density, so it was easy to get from here to there, and it's and the vibe because of the weather was always great. It's a company town, industry town. People get up early in the morning if they're working because they have to go be on a set, and even people who are not in the industry, like stockbrokers and hedge fund guys, and are all up because they have to be up when the market opens in New York. So it's an early town. Okay. You have to seek it all out. In fact, everything is here, but you still have to seek it out. In New York, it hits you in the face as you get off, as you walk out the front door.
And so do most of the homeless people.
Well, that's the thing. And you're always in New York standing where somebody else must be at that exact moment. Right. And they let you know it. That never happens here. People say, "Do you have any pet peeves?" And I always say, "I live in LA, so my pet peeve is the car in front of me."
Which I believe in.
I hate your Mercedes. Just pull the fuck over and let me go.
Yeah, amen. Oh my God, traffic around here is a nightmare.
The other thing I will say this: New York is a city of 8 million finalists. Everybody is there because they want to be number one, top of the heap. Start spreading the news. Everybody, they come out here because they want to be a part of the dream, and the dream is money and fame and beauty, and none of these are particularly deep attributes. I mean, it breeds a deeply shallow atmosphere. Yeah. So you have to work hard to find people who are not out here for that.
Exactly.
They're all here, but you have to find them. In New York, they're all there because they are going to conquer the world. Right. And they are at the top of various professions that are a bit more advanced than selling your face, right, or
selling your body,
or surfing, or that kind of stuff. That being said, obviously, I choose the shallow end of the pool. I mean, I go back to New York to work, and I love it. But I like living here more, and as I got older, I like the weather. I mean, I'm shameless. New York, you're freezy, you're fried.
Yeah, that's true.
There'll be 2 spring days and 3 autumn ones. Otherwise, you're freezing.
You're fried. It's so true. And your adoptive parents, Jonas and is it Henna?
Henny.
Henny.
Like Youngman, and
okay.
as funny.
Oh, really?
Prettier. And as funny.
Prettier.
And
spelled it differently.
And your mom's kind of the inspiration, or the pushing inspiration to you getting into the acting and television stuff like that. She wasn't Mama Rose. I mean, she wasn't going to make a living off of me, but she always wanted to do that, and she never did it. And she would do it for charity shows and things like that. And when I exhibited an interest in it, it played right into her love of that world. And my father, who was a doctor, was just amused by the two of us. That he'd married this woman, and that this kid. We were allied in this, and he loved the idea. He loved musicals. He invested in musicals, and he kind of loved show business. His major concern was that I would make a living, right?
Because he was a doctor, and his parents had been doctors. His mother was actually a doctor, which was very unusual.
Were they all optometrists? Because he was an optometrist.
They were all optometrists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
My grandmother was an optometrist in the 20s.
Wow.
Very few female doctors and almost no female optometrists.
Right, exactly.
Because it was such a strange. Optometrists mostly deal with lenses and examinations. The ophthalmologists are the ones who actually
dig into it,
dig in, and have the medical degrees.
Yeah. Okay.
So he went into their practice.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, again, it's a nice the family kind of continued on with everything.
There was hope that I would want that, but no, I would. Once I needed glasses, I would go into the office. I would go into the catalogs, and I would order all the Dame Edna glasses.
So the big ones, the purple ones, with little feathers.
They were huge. They were fancy ladies' sunglasses. And what Barry Humphries would do in the beginning, before he had them made for him, because I'd written for Barry, what he would do is just poke out the lenses and have somebody put clear lenses in them. And so he had the most unusual glasses. Those were those are the ones I had. And my father would say, "Who ordered these?" And there were like peacocks coming out. Which one of my patients wanted that?
Me, Dad.
I'll send it back.
And so, speaking of having a very expressive personality as a child, when your parents did they kind of know since the beginning that you were a little special or different, or did it kind of come along?
I think I kept them guessing.
Okay.
I think that they knew that because I had very strong attachments to strange guys, to kids who really were effeminate.
Okay.
And they thought there must be something happening there. But also, I was very interested in girls.
Okay.
And I always was dating girls, and I always wanted to be married and have kids and go through that whole thing. And but at a certain point in my life, I decided that in high school, actually, I said that any woman who I was interested in would deserve more than a guy who would run off to the Greyhound station to find sailors. and so I when the people say it's choice, I say, well, in my case it was choice. I choose to be who I really am.
There you go.
And so I said, that's it. I'm not going to hurt anybody's feelings. And also, I realized at that point that women just. I'm still interested in women, but it's too much work.
Yeah.
Especially now, it's just they're afraid of gay guys now. They think they're all carrying something. They're going to have to take a pill before, or something like that. But I like big tits. I like big dicks. If I can find some fabulous trans who has everything, I'll settle down. If I can find two, I'll really settle down.
And if he finds a harem, then it's a party. But your entire career has kind of been one big guessing game with everyone of toying that line of making them kind of guess okay, is he not, you kind of played that up a little bit.
I don't know. No,
for a little bit in the beginning.
I guess at the beginning because I didn't want to be. I was a homosexual professional. I didn't want to be a professional homosexual. And I had friends who were, and writers who only wrote about that, about the gay aspect of everything. I didn't want to be that. I'd been a journalist, and I wrote about a lot of different things. And this was before Stonewall, and then after Stonewall changed everything because you could then say, oh fuck it, I am who I am.
Right.
And so I had that a while, but at a certain point, I decided that I had to just be honest.
Just be you.
Yeah, I had to stop pretending that there would ever be a woman, or pretending that I was. I never pretended to be anything I wasn't. But I wasn't like teasing people. I mean, Peter Allen in his act, that was part of his act. But that's because he was up there singing love songs, and it's always, can you sing a love song and can you kiss the girl? If you're in a movie, those are always the questions about we used to have. Oh my God, we used to have. There used to be a joke about a guy who goes, who wakes up in the morning and there's a guy in bed with him. It's never happened before. And he leans over to him and he says, I only have one question. Last night, did I perform a homosexual act? He says, no, Peter Allen performs a homosexual act. You suck my dick.
Oh, wow.
And Peter was the first and probably the last of those guys. I mean, he did an album called Bicoastal.
Oh my God.
And the song, which was written by Dean Pitchford with Peter, Bicoastal, and it was about New York and LA, but it was really about girls and boys.
Yeah.
And because he was married to Liza Minnelli, and then after they broke up, he was full bore with all of his boyfriends.
All those boys.
So that was part of the trick, and at the time it was exotic. At the time it was like audiences were titillated by this guy who was kind of pansexual.
Right.
And then along came Boy George and people who left no question. So I mean he said this is an old reference, but he would say, I went to see Boy George and my God, he makes me and Bette Midler look like Ozzie and Harriet. Nice suburban couple. So I never did that to us. I decided I was going to be out there, and I was behind the scenes most of the time writing. And there was a writer named Merle Miller who was quite brilliant, a gay guy who was a historian. He wrote the definitive biography of Harry Truman, and he also wrote a piece for the New York Times Magazine. And he started off by saying the definition of faggot. He said a faggot is a homosexual gentleman who has just left the room.
I heard you say this.
Yeah, and I've been quoting this for 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, this was when I realized that I was going to be the one in the room who said, by the way, I'm a faggot, so that joke you just did is about me.
Right.
And then once you put a face on it, you're no longer an abstract thing, and it's suddenly they have to deal with you like what you are, which is a human being.
Where's a real person?
Before, when you're just in the abstract, it's like, oh, those queens.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's just the fact that you two paved the way too for a lot of, especially writing and putting content out there that really kind of expresses and it pokes fun a little bit at the LGBT community, but in a fun way, and really kind of gives us a platform on which to stand on in the industry. For you, because it's first of all, this industry is an eat your own young kind of industry. How do you really survive not just being an out performer, but also being just you and being an artist and getting your content out there without, obviously now you probably don't have that problem, but in the beginning, what was the hardest part for you?
Well, I was a strange beast because I was writing.
Okay.
And I wasn't out there, like I was not a club comic.
Right.
There are people who, like Jason Stewart, who was out there early on being gay in these homophobic comedy clubs.
Right.
Which I never wanted to do. I never wanted to perform for anybody who didn't come to see me.
Right, exactly.
I didn't want to have to prove it.
Right.
So, and I got lucky because I got on television and on Hollywood Squares, and so they got to know me.
Right.
So, now my favorite criticism is, do you have to be so gay? So gay. On Hollywood Squares, we actually got that from from the station managers, like in Dallas.
Oh, really?
I said, why does he have to be so gay? And I was bemoaning that to Whoopi, and she said, I get the same shit. Why is she so black? Why is she so street? And it was it's the same thing. It's like, well, when they're confronted with the reality of it, it's like they would, they all would harken back to Paul Lynde, who came from another era where it was a secret society, and it was an inside joke, and the people who got it,
Yeah.
and the people whose heads it went over didn't notice.
Right.
So, but I felt, we had moved on.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ellen is a great example. When Ellen came out, it was one of the highest rated shows ever.
Yeah.
And then she was out. Now what? Well, she's an attractive young woman who's a lesbian who's looking for love. What's she gonna do? Call the Jonas Brothers? No, she's gonna look for another lesbian. And all of a sudden, the ratings went down because they didn't want to see that.
Right.
They weren't interested in that. They didn't even want to show it. If you were driving from Chicago to Miami around about St. Louis, the show would drop off the air. You couldn't find it.
Wow. And I always find it interesting too, because you originally went to school for like acting-ish, but I mean musical theater kind of, and then journalism as well. And then that's kind of how you got into the Chicago Tribune and writing for them. And then originally how you met Bette Midler within that. You have an amazing story with how you met her and just kind of the whole funny description of kind of how she got up and performed. So could you share with everyone how you met Miss Bette Midler?
I was a journalist mostly because my father wanted me to have something to fall back on.
Right.
And he said, newspapers are forever. Who knew?
Sorry, Hank.
Yeah. So I got a journalism and theater degree and wound up at the Chicago Tribune.
Yeah.
And a guy I knew in New York said, this girl who I'm working with is she's the Fiddler on the Roof, playing one of the daughters.
Right.
And she's going to come and play this nightclub. So if you like her, would you write about her? So I went to see her, and it was a club called Mr. Kelly's, which was a famous hip nightclub, and she was opening for Jackie Vernon, who was a deadpan comic.
I've heard he's just like this, like just
totally
dry and just this,
very dry.
Yeah.
When I was a child, I was unwanted. Now I am wanted in 13 states.
And was the audience just basically
Just looked like him, kind of. A bus driver crowd, sort of. They all, they roared. I mean, we were. My family was so unloved. I was run over by the welcome wagon. That kind. And so she was the opening act. So they were not ready for her. They thought they'd get some glamorous girl coming out singing, I've been so many places in my life and time. No. She came out from the kitchen, as you had to do, and she was wearing a man's shirt, unbuttoned to the waist, and tied, knotted, and no bra.
Was she protesting again?
Yeah. Well, it was 1970. She said this was a political statement.
Oh, okay.
And I said, in your case, it's a terrorist act. And she had a cummerbund and tuxedo pants and springalators, which were a certain kind of 40s shoe, kind of sometimes known as fuck me pumps. They were very tall. And she came out, and her opening number was, and she had all this hair, red hair, and an orchid stuck in her hair. Jesus. And a Hawaiian girl. Born in and she came out, and her opening number was Shaboom. Shaboom, shaboom, yalla, shaboom, shaboom. And the jugs were flying, and the audience went completely nuts. They were stupefied. They didn't know what to make of her. And she came on, and she was great. I mean, she won them over because she had tremendous force of personality, and obviously, and a great singing voice and all that. And I thought, well, I've never seen anything like this. And I went back afterwards, and I said, well, I want to write about you. And I wrote a column about her, and 2 days later, she called and said, that was very funny. You're a funny writer. And I said, well, you're funny. You should talk more. She said, got any lines? And that was the beginning.
Wow.
50 years ago.
Oh, my God. And this is great, too, because she was just coming off Fiddler, doing some stuff like that on Broadway. And this was some little thing she was doing on the side?
On the side. And then she had started the Continental Baths.
Okay.
She had, and I came in late on that. She had a hairdresser who was writing for her at the time.
Oh, jeez.
In fact, she said to her manager, it was Bud Friedman, who ran the Improv, was her manager.
Wow.
And she said, he said to her, now that you're making some inroads for yourself, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to want to write for you. He said, but it turns out I was wrong. It was only a hairdresser.
Shady. Wow.
So I was hairdresser number 2. But Bill Hennessy was her first writer, and she was at the Tubs with him. And then, of course, the famous story is her piano player got mono, and which was before there was mono.
Right.
You know, when we all still had immune systems. Mono was the kissing disease.
Yeah.
So her piano player got mono, and he called in a sub, and the sub was Barry Manilow.
Right.
Wow.
And
Just
that was the beginning of that. And Barry sat there looking around. He'd never been to the Tubs. He needed a little nudge.
Wow. And you helped write a lot of stuff for her. You did the Clams on the Half Shell for her, and then co-wrote Divine Madness for her as well.
True.
What was it like on a day-to-day with Miss Midler? Like when you would like show up and to do stuff and do bits?
Well, it started, she was already on tour,
Okay.
and so I would come along with her, and the show was already set, so
Okay.
I had places where she always had an opening thing that she did, and certain lines that led into certain songs, and one of the things I contributed was, since I was a TV critic at the time of the Chicago Tribune, I would call the other TV critics who I had met on junkets and stuff, and ask them what was happening in their town. So she would come in armed with material about that town,
Oh, wow.
which nobody was doing, and they couldn't believe it, because it represented some real research.
Yeah.
And it became one of the hallmarks of her thing, to the point now where on the last tour, she said, one joke about the city, I can't learn anything else. I don't want to learn it. There were pages of stuff for her to learn.
Wow.
But, we were younger then. I was younger writing it, she was younger reading it. But it was quite remarkable. And then when we, after that, that spate ended with the Palace, the next show we did was Clams. And from then on, there were shows that we constructed in the rehearsal hall and the studio, the recording studio. And everything's always been based around the music.
Okay.
With her, it's always about getting into and out of songs and different things that she wants to sing.
So
except that we did a comedy album.
Oh.
We did in 1980. We did "Mud Will Be Flung Tonight." It was called. We shot at the Improv, Bill Friedman's club.
Wow.
But but they were all pretty much the same. I mean, we just get together in the dining room and wherever she's living and start throwing ideas at each other.
Okay.
And I'll go off and write stuff and come back, and she edits it, and then we rewrite, and then we start performing it, and it gets embroidered as we go along.
Wow.
But the shows got huge, so a lot of the stuff had to be, really done and frozen ahead of time. I mean, when you have 36 mermaids in wheelchairs,
Jesus.
That's a lot of people going, what now? You kind of have to be prepared.
Exactly. And for what would you say would be one of your favorite memories with her that you could just say that comes to mind initially, where you're just like, oh my god, that's hilarious.
Well,
that you can tell us.
There are many. They'll be in the book. There are many. I'll tell you, something that happened that really crystallized the whole thing for me. I forget, we were on tour and we were in Cincinnati, that I remember. And a fan came back and with a scrapbook as a gift.
Oh, wow.
And it was all of these articles and reviews that he collected over the years. And it started out being, she's the greatest thing and then of course the next wave was, well, this time she's not as great, it wasn't as funny, this album doesn't, it's not quite and on and on and on, and she was reading it, I could see her whole demeanor falling as she was reading the thing, and finally she just slammed the book shut, and she looked at me and she said, fuck them if they can't take a joke. And that to me just, whenever I think of her, I think of that was, she always says, you were kind of harsh when I met you, and it's true. I mean, watching her lightened me up.
Yeah.
Because it was fun. We always had a good time. She was crazy and manic, and there were many bad episodes because of bad behavior. But on the other hand, there was always a bond, I suppose. So, I mean, I'm like most people. That when I think of her, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because she's somebody once called her America's joy buzzer.
Yeah.
You know, and
I don't know if I want you to elaborate on that one.
well, you go.
I'm gold
one
star.
Of the things,
I'm a little innocent.
one of the things that's commented on by a lot of people who've gone to see her do Hello Dolly
Mm-hmm.
is the warmth that radiates from the
Okay.
audience to the stage and back, which is unusual in the theater, but it's typical of all of her shows.
Yeah.
And it's just they haven't seen it in this context.
Oh, okay.
And it is kind of amazing. I mean, it raises the roof because people are, at this point, it's a lot of people who've already experienced the divide.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you how many people say to me, I came out because after I saw her show in Buffalo,
Wow.
Yeah.
or, I mean, I felt like I wasn't alone.
Mm-hmm.
I went to see her in Cleveland, and I felt like I was in a room full of like-minded individuals, like people. She freed me to be who I am.
Well, you said it's basically, like I've heard you say in articles before, it's basically a pride show every time.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Every show she had, it was like a
Well,
pride
and I
event.
mean, and she knew it, but you know, obviously she was going for the big audience,
Right,
not
right.
just a gay audience. But it wasn't, and it wasn't just gay people. I mean, referring to their sexuality, it was just people liberated
Right.
generally. I mean, this was before she became a movie star. After she
Right.
became a movie star, it was the energy shifted a little bit, but you can still feel it in all of these. Because a lot of the crowd that comes to see her, of course, is her age, and so they are people for whom she had that effect.
Right.
But also a lot of you know, the next generation, they don't quite. When they see her live, they know her as the woman who sings "Wind Beneath My Wings"
Right.
and "The Rose" and "God is watching." You know? And then she comes out and does Sophie Tucker jokes,
Right.
and you know, and swears,
Yeah.
and you know, does this burlesque stuff, and they kind of go, "Holy shit! I didn't know that's who she was.
Yeah.
I had no idea."
Yeah. They're kind of a little dumbfounded a little bit.
Yeah, it's a strange kind of twist for a career to take, but I'll take it.
Famous last words. But you've done not just that, which was an amazing part of getting started in your career with writing for TV, for film, for all that stuff. But you've also written for co-wrote for the Donnie Marie Show, the Star Wars Holiday Special, the Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
Triumph.
Triumph. Well,
Yes, Triumph.
I'm going to read some of the comments from that one. Brady Bunch Variety Hour. You've done stuff for Lily Tomlin, Billy Crystal, Roseanne Barr, Rosie O'Donnell, Paul Reiser. Everyone. I mean, even Robin Williams. What is it like working with some of those people to come up with material, because you're trying to work around their personalities, but also still have your personality live through the joke? How do you kind of manage those two?
Not my personality. I mean, I'm writing to their point of view.
Okay.
So I always compare it to designing a dress.
Okay.
You know, if I were Bob Mackie, you know, you're not going to put Lady Gaga in the same dress as Chrissy Metz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're
Oh my God! I just had that vision right
they're
there.
going to look different. So every one of these jobs that I've had when I've written for these people is a couture job. Because some people look better in the A line, some people can have the cleavage, some can't. And it's the same thing with it depends on who they are, and often it's what the occasion is that I'm writing for. If it's just for them generally, then it's you find a topic that they're interested in, and then establish what their point of view is. I mean, it's work. I mean, it's fun sitting down and writing it, but part of what I've always done is write individual stuff. I hate to write generic things for people, and you wind up doing that a lot on award shows because, when Michelle Pfeiffer comes out to present the Art Direction Award on the Oscars, it's not like Michelle's going to come out and do a raft of tit jokes. I mean, she's not going to come out and do anything. I mean, she's not looking to be funny. She's gorgeous, and she's elegant, and she's serious.
Yes.
So she might have a dry remark about something that she could...
Like a funny little quip.
Yeah, I mean, she could say something like, if she was presenting the cinematography award, she said, the cinematographer I work very closely with so many cinematographers. As I've gotten older, I like to work farther away. That that would be the kind of thing you could give to her.
I can see that.
You know, yeah.
And
Because
you've been writing
she
for them.
she can't pretend she's not older than she was.
No, yeah.
I mean, we've seen her for 30, 40 years. So that takes the generic stink off of whatever the occasion is.
Gotcha. And then you've been writing for the Academy for
Well,
'89.
yeah.
And then you officially became as the lead writer in 2000.
Sort of, yeah. I mean,
Just
because
I mean,
they head writer. I mean, it's not like Crown Prince.
Right.
I mean, it's like some years there is one, some years there isn't one. It varies.
Gotcha.
So it depends on who's producing it and who's hosting it.
Gotcha.
And
And what's it like, kind of working and writing for the Academy Awards? Is it kind of the same as working for different individuals? It's kind of like a couture job, or
it's literally because there's a different host every year. So,
Okay.
so you take your tone from that, and different producers have different ideas. I mean,
Gotcha.
I did 17 shows with Gil Cates, and he had a definite view of what the show should be. He loved the theme, and he liked strange bookings like having General Colin Powell come out and present an award, and satellite hookups to the space station, and he had all kinds of ideas. And other people have different ideas, and so you have to gauge what you want to do with it. They'll say, "I just want it to be funny. We're going to book all funny people." And, you never. It varies from year to year. And what's bizarre is, it's like reinventing the wheel. I mean, eventually it's a wheel. It has to turn. It must move the vehicle. It won't happen unless it is completely round.
Right.
So in other words, you have to accomplish X, Y, and Z in the course of the show. You can't not present the special effects award. You can't.
Right.
You can't. I mean, certain things they've eventually been talked out of.
Right.
They stopped giving the honorary awards on the air because they ate up so much time. I mean, we gave out 4 of them one year, and that was 45 minutes out of the show. So they spun it off into a non-televised award show, which is now another revenue stream for them.
Wow.
At the Academy, and they shoot it for the archives, and they put a minute of it into the broadcast so people can see.
kind of get a little taste of
Yeah.
it. Yes,
Yeah.
And so I'd like to switch gears into your acting career. You've done a little bit of acting as well. One of your first debuts was being a dress manufacturer in Mahogany with Diane Ross, which must have been an interesting combination.
It was quite fabulous. I was in Chicago still. I was writing for the paper, and there was an agent there, and Shirley Rich, who was the big agent, commercial agent. I'd done some commercials.
Okay.
And she thought I'd be funny for this part, which was, and originally Diana Ross was a girl from the projects who comes to work. I give her a job, and she's an assistant, and she meets Anthony Perkins, who is the photographer, who sees modeling potential and takes her to Rome.
Wow.
So, at that point, Barry Gordy, who was producing it, was in charge of it, I should say, fired the director, who was the Academy Award winner, Tony Richardson. It was a big deal. He's also Natasha and Jolie Richardson's father. Yeah. And was gay and died of AIDS, and was married to Vanessa Redgrave. So he was quite an interesting character, but they never really got along. I mean, Diane, he smelled like if he had one of those very terribly British comic store accents, and he was sort of like Maggie Smith in Downton Abbey, but much more extreme, and she had no idea what he was saying. You know what he's saying? I don't understand a word he's saying. So they fired him, and instead of my hiring her, I didn't hire her. And we reshot the scene, and I didn't hire her because they wanted to keep me in the movie. So, and then Tony Perkins whisks her off to Rome because Rome was much more photogenic than Chicago. Barry decided.
Just a switch.
It was Barry's first movie as a director, so. So it's, I had that one scene that's left, and it was a scene I had to rewrite, and we didn't have time to learn because it was the end of the day. We had to do it. So we wrote it on wrapping paper.
Oh wow.
Printed it, the dialogue, and you can see in the scene the two of us are kind of like this.
Just kind of reading off the
Reading off. It was trying hard to be spontaneous. And I'm sewing, which I don't do, so I sewed my shirt to her coat at one point. She turned to go, and I yanked off the stool. We finally got it in the can. But it was I had a great time with her. She was terrific, and I subsequently wrote her nightclub act, her Palace show, and
Right.
a couple of TV specials.
Wow.
So we had a really good time, but at the time it was, and then I thought, well, nobody will notice this. And when I met RuPaul,
Oh God,
for the first time, he was not, he was famous, but he was having the first flush of fame, not this flush of fame.
was this on Hollywood? Was on the Hollywood Squares when?
It was before that even.
Okay.
It was when he had the VH1 show.
Okay.
He had some disco hits.
Yes.
Right.
And Sachet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I met him there,
Shantae.
and he came up to me and he just looked at me and said, Bruce Vilanch, Mahogany, 32 minutes in. Fuck, I went home and put the thing in the VCR, and 32 minutes in, there's the scene.
Wow.
And I said to myself,
Stop
not
her.
for nothing, see RuPaul. This is one to watch.
Yes.
This one is not going away.
No, not at all. And I mean, clearly now she has a dynasty and girls all around the world that are just amazing. And also, you've done an off-Broadway one-man show called Bruce Vilanch, Almost Famous,
That's true.
which was in the early 2000s.
Before the
and-
movie title.
Before the movie
I
title.
said, Cameron Crowe, you owe me for that title.
Which is Blockbuster.
Oh God, when Blockbuster was around. And you've also done for a local mutual friend of ours, Michael Vaccaro. You did Child of the 70s,
Yes.
where he was the personal casting couch individual that got everyone all the gigs but slept with all the boys.
Oh, that was me.
That was you.
I got to do a blowjob during an earthquake with Chuck Sekula, which is certainly worth doing that.
Oh, it was interesting.
And I've been trying to get him to do a reboot. Not happening that fast. Hey, Chuck.
We're just gonna.
That's me calling you.
I think he's waiting for the next earthquake.
Around the corner.
But everyone can check that out. It was hilarious, and I mean it was just so perfect with you in there. Michael said it was just such a pleasure to work with you, and it was.
I love him long time. I forget when I first met him. I met him a long time before he did the web series.
Uh-huh. How easy was it, or not easy was it, to keep your hands off Leo Forte?
I didn't keep my hands off him. I was all over him. What do you mean? That's why he blocked me on Facebook.
Me too.
And then you've also, I mean, obviously television as well. We've kind of you've done some stuff with The Simpsons, RuPaul's Drag Race. You appeared there as a guest judge. And kind of what has been, over the course of your film and TV career, one of your favorite aspects of it, outside of like Hollywood Squares? What has been one of your favorite aspects of doing film and television?
Well, those are the favorites.
Okay.
Hollywood Squares and all the Oscar shows.
Okay.
And again, working with Beth, that's she's been the constant through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And all that. And then I got to after Hollywood Squares, when you're on television every night, you get a lot of crazy offers, and one of them was to come and audition for Hairspray.
Oh wow.
So I did, and I got it. And it was the first national tour. And then after a year that I went to Broadway, I shaved out Regis and Kelly.
Wow. Who shaved you, Regis or Kelly?
Neither. A little Italian, a barber from Little Italy. It was like a famous barber. Probably some gangster was shot in his chair. Cut me. I bear the scar. I was bleeding.
Oh my
Oh my
God.
I bled on Kelly. And I mean, she was looking at me with horror. I thought she had. I couldn't imagine. I thought Kathy Lee Gifford was behind me. That's how horrified she was.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that's
And
wow.
I was like ripping blood, and I walked off, and Joaquin Phoenix was waiting to go on. He was plugging it. He made a fireman picture with John Travolta, Ladder 49.
Wow.
He was about to, and I knew him. I known him as a child,
Right.
as a baby, because his mother was a friend of mine's secretary.
Oh, wow.
And she had all these children. They were like real hippies.
Yeah.
And so they had River and
Joaquin.
yeah, Joaquin. But he had another name before, like Leaf, I think. He was Leaf. And so I remember him as that, and then he changed it, I think. He became Joaquin. Anyway, so he was like, love seeing you, man, but don't bleed on me. So that was what, it was, the stunt was I was getting rid of my beard of 32 years so I could be a woman.
So she could be a lady.
I wanted to be a bearded lady, but they said...
They wouldn't let you be a bearded lady?
No, they said it's a little too John Waters. They said it's like we're asking the audience to make a buy that these are two men playing a heterosexual couple.
Okay.
We don't want to ask them to make another buy that the woman has a hormone problem. It's just a bridge too far.
Well, and your beard was, it was an intense beard. It was big and fluffy.
Oh, I really looked like Ozark Ike.
There was some Duck Dynasty realness out there.
There was.
And through most of Hollywood Squares, you had it. I think through the
I
whole
had it
time.
for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Squares, yeah.
Oh.
No, except the last couple of years when I would come back after I was doing Hairspray, I would come like off the road to plug Hairspray. Actually.
Yeah.
So I would come and we shot on the weekends.
Okay.
So they would like give me a Sunday off and I would fly in from someplace and do the shows that day.
Wow.
And so I would be on that week because we did a week in a day.
Okay. And then when you were doing this with Hollywood Squares for a long time, which was, 15 years?
6 years altogether.
Oh, 6 years.
Yeah, I had written on the end of the old one.
Okay.
I written for Paul Lind. Because the first one was started in '67 and was on for 14 years.
Right.
And then there was a middle one with Joan Rivers, 5 years.
I don't think I was old enough.
You're right, probably. Waylon Flowers was on it, and Jim J. Bullock. It was very gay.
Yes.
It was very gay. John Davidson was the host.
Oh, wow.
That was
That's
5
very
years, and then the '80s, and then we came back to '96, I think.
Wow. But for you being on that, because you were kind of the square right there next to Whoopi almost
Yeah,
all
I
the
was
time.
always next to Whoopi.
What was kind of your favorite part about Hollywood Squares? Was it kind of just the interaction between you and the other celebrities, or kind of just the fun little things you guys got to say?
It was the idea. It was a party. It had always been a party.
Okay.
And it was when it started. There weren't that many places on television where you could see celebrities just being celebrities,
Right.
just being people, not doing their act.
Right.
That was the attraction of it. And Match Game was another one.
Right.
There were those game shows where you got to see celebrities kind of like off guard.
Right.
And the idea when they brought it back was the same thing, only they wanted it to be specifically funny, to have as many comics on it as they could, and I was the head writer. So the most fun was with that group, getting up there and doing it. And we'd come in at 9 in the morning and do 3 shows and then have lunch and wine, and then 2 shows in the afternoon.
So
Then
the
we'd be
afternoon
out
was
of
the
there
fun
by
one.
4. The afternoon. Now they aired in sequence. We shot a week
wow.
in a day. So
Okay.
the Thursday and Friday shows were very loose. But
Thank you for the
that
weekend.
had always apparently been the tradition.
Oh, really?
And they had also, in their marketing, discovered that people liked that because by the end of the week, they were in that kind of a mood.
Right.
At the beginning of the week, they were like, you can't make me laugh. I mean, they didn't say that consciously, but it's like, it was like, don't try and make me laugh. I've got too much on my mind. By the end of the week, it was kind of like, the weekend's coming.
Yeah. Just have at
So,
it.
those Friday shows were always kind of like really funny. And everything took forever.
I love, there was one episode I was rewatching from like 2000. It was really funny because it had you, it was RuPaul, and there was, oh no, I'm spacing on his name, the guy from Queer as Folk.
Carson Daly?
No, not Queer as Folk, sorry.
Queer Eye.
No, Queer as Folk, yes, not Queer Eye. Queer as Folk, Nate Hale, or Nate Hale, or
Hal Sparks.
Hal Sparks. Oh my God.
Oh, Hal Sparks. Yeah.
It was like the three of you.
I was trying to remember Peter Page.
Me too.
Randy Harrison.
Yeah.
I was working my way to Hal Sparks.
And there was this kind of like funny trifecta between the three of you, like making funny clips about.
Oh, Hal's hysterical. I mean, he does stand up, and he has a metal band. a real Renaissance guy.
I didn't realize how I love that you mentioned the metal, how kind of like punk he is sometimes. I
Yeah.
saw him at a gay men's chorus event, and he comes out all in black, jet black spiked up hair,
Right.
his all his jewelry and his stuff. I was just kind of like, this is the kid, like the
Yeah, he
mousy
does.
little guy from Queer as
I saw
Folk.
that, yeah. We've done a lot of AIDS benefits in New York where they'll bring us on to do the sponsor section.
Okay.
To kind of lighten up. You have to mention all the names.
Right.
And we just
Which
carry on and make jokes about it.
Which is not easy to do,
Right.
for sure. And I mean, you've done a lot of, stuff definitely for charities. You've done stuff for Broadway Cares, the Equal Fights AIDS. Also, you've done some stuff for Pause LA, which I love.
Stoli.
For Stoli. I was just recently with Patrick Gallagher for this 2018 Stoli Cocktail Classic,
Yes.
which went to, I think it was 13 different cities or 15?
I think they go to 20.
Oh, 20.
I mean, it seems like every other week he's someplace else.
Yeah, I can't keep up
And
with
it
him.
raises money for the local gay charities.
Yes.
I mean, it's at gay bars, and and I judge the finals in Key West,
Yes.
and it's basically a clearinghouse for a lot of money for small gay charities.
Exactly, and it's really, the winner gets to do it for whatever local charity of their choice, or their
Right.
community.
Yeah, everybody's got
It's just
that.
it's a great way to kind of give back for that. And you've also gotten some amazing awards from GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Center. Outfest honored you, as well as APLA, for everything with that.
The wall of lucite.
The wall of lucite, I love that. But you've really, first and foremost, just the aspect of what you've done with your writing and really bringing to light a lot of really fun satire of the LGBT community, but making it really interesting and making sure people understand that, like you said, we're here. If you have anything to say it to our faces, and don't go behind closed doors and talk about us behind our backs. With all of that, I'd like to kind of get into some fun, like a little game, just a smidge with some. Don't take your clothes off. We're gonna do a striptease. The fastest one to get undressed.
Yeah.
He starts. No. So we're gonna do Shag, Marry, Kill. Just real quick with a couple
that
ones.
one, yeah.
The fun ones. So we're gonna do
I never know how to answer.
the best
I
way
thought I
possible.
do too much thinking.
So we'll just do a couple
There's
of
nobody
these.
I want to kill. I mean, nobody who you'll mention, I'm sure.
Shag, marry, and then we'll just say dump instead of kill. That way it's just like
Take a dump on.
not take a dump on. Ugh, special. So first one is Bianca Del Rio, Leslie Jordan, and Wanda Sykes.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Well, I love them all. They're all great. I mean, so I don't want to dump any. They're all friends of mine, and they're all like terrific. So I mean,
Shag, marry, date. Let's do it that way. Who would you rather date? Shag, and then
date.
marry.
Oh, I want to date Bianca because Bianca always says he says he's Costa Rican.
Uh-huh.
He says so that means he has no credit and a huge dick. I'll take him to shag. Thank you.
And I hear he's an amazing top.
Well, I've little doubt, and he will tell you.
Okay.
And
Leslie Jordan and Wanda Sykes.
And what are the others? Shag, marry, and
Date.
And it's
So,
date?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't get too far with Wanda. I mean, so I guess she's the one.
You want a date?
I mean, and Leslie and I, seem to have the same taste. Leslie and I have a timeshare in a booth at Swinging Richards in Atlanta.
You
I
mean
used
the
to go
North
there all
Side
the time.
Ballet.
I what?
The North Side Ballet.
The North Side Ballet. Oh, that's right. I remember that. I did a benefit with them, I think,
I used to be there.
in Atlanta.
That's where I met Leslie.
Yeah. Oh, he's got. I mean, there's
He
every.
brought one of them home to L.A. He moved the guy to L.A.
Oh
A guy
my
that
God.
he met. You know him, yeah.
Oh my god, that's funny.
So it's what
we are. So you're shagging
I'm
Bianca.
shagging Bianca.
You're gonna marry, or you're gonna date Wanda, and I'm guessing you're marrying Leslie.
I'll marry Leslie.
He has money.
He is funny.
Because I'll never know that he's around because he's like a dust mite. He's very small. He blows away. He blew off the balcony in Will and Grace.
That's true. I thought Karen pushed him. No, he blew up.
No, he a stiff wind.
Yeah, his stiff wind.
Although that apparently now that was all a dream somebody had.
Yeah.
Now in the reboot.
But
has he come back? Has Beverly Leslie come back?
Yes, he did.
Okay, I'm a little behind.
He gets drugged up and confesses that he's gay.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Okay,
He finally comes
I've
out.
got to go into that queue and look at that stuff.
Yeah.
It's absolutely hilarious.
I take them, honest.
She
Max,
acts-
I
she
take
acts
them all.
But no, Bruce, we want to thank you so much for being here and
Alright.
kikiing with us and just kind of giving us all the tea for Hollywood and all that's going on. Is there anything people can look out for you that you're going to be up doing? Any like?
Well, yeah, there is actually.
stuff?
I mean, I'm going to be doing so. I don't know when this goes. When do we see this?
This is
This is live right now.
This is
It's up?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be in
It's up and
San
out.
Diego.
Yeah.
I'm up. I'm in San Diego August 9th at Martini above 4th,
Okay.
Thanks.
doing my one-man extravaganza.
Oh,
And I'll be in Provincetown for Carnival August
Oh,
17th and
fantastic.
18th at the Crown and Anchor,
Oh, yeah.
doing a similar extravaganza. And then I've written a musical with all of Petula Clark's music.
Really?
It's Think Mamma Mia, please think Mamma Mia. It's an original book, original story with all of her songs, and we are doing it. We've been doing regional theaters around the country, so we'll be doing the Delaware Theater Company in Wilmington, Delaware, Thanksgiving through Christmas.
Okay.
Oh, very
It's
cool.
called A Sign of the Times,
Okay.
which was one of her big hit records.
Wow.
And so I think really I can't plug anything more. It's embarrassing. And I will be replacing Roseanne on the Connor Show. If
Quote of the
Christopher
whole
Plummer
thing.
doesn't get it before
Oh
I.
my God.
That was a joke.
So it'll be Vilanch.
Because he replaces everybody.
Yeah.
It'll be either Vilanch or just Bruce.
It'll be the con jobs.
Oh God, I love it. But you can go and check out Bruce on all through social media, Bruce
Oh,
Vilanch,
God,
and everything else with that, and always check him out.
fine.
Just look him out. Just
I
type
got
in
more
Bruce
platforms than Cirque du Soleil. I'm diving off all of them.
But we want to thank everyone so much for tuning in today, as well as GayLifeLA.com and Kings Road Apartment Homes. And thank you, Impulse Los Angeles, for their amazing sponsorship for today. Thank you guys so much for helping us all live safe, healthy, and sexy lifestyles for the LGBTQ plus community. Thank you guys. We'll tune in next week where we got an extra special guest, and it's actually going to be the close for season 2. Yay! So we'll be closing off for a week, and then we'll be coming out back for season 3, so you guys can get
There's a
some more.
cliffhanger.
There's
Yes.
a cliffhanger. I
Absolutely.
may pierce something. Probably not. My boyfriend says no. He looks at me like, no, I'm not doing it. Well, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you tuning in. Catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
A royal wave.
For the-